everybody living in a perfect world. Everybody's out there crying to be heard. But I got a new fire burning my heart, lighting up the darkness and moving like a meteorite. Oh, fire! Oh, fire! Oh, fire! Oh, fire, fire, fire. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. Oh, fire! Oh, fire! Oh, fire! Oh, fire, fire, fire. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Welcome to ReneMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm ReneMarie, and thank you so much for dealing with us. We had some technical difficulties when we put it back up. We'll put it up correctly, but we wanted to make sure that we were respecting everybody's time. Judy, of course, has created a wonderful show. Happy New Year to everybody. 2023 is going to be a phenomenal year in everybody's life. We have to begin the year with hope, and we really think that it's going to be a wonderful year for our organization. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary from the vision, so we're doing wonderful work. And Judy, of course, does phenomenal work with the Stroke of Luck. We're actually taking a step back, not doing the show, but we're actually going to do 2 shows per month on one weekend, and that gives us time to work on our books and work on our personal one-on-one shows. And when we do the show, we invest so much time and energy into it that I think it's time after 8 years to just downsize a little bit, just not leave you guys at all, but just downsize a little bit and taking in new avenues. So thank you for working with us. We're so excited about everything. We have a wonderful show today. Courtney, Judy's going to read the press that she put out to everybody, and I'm going to let her do that. But I want to thank Courtney for joining us today, and for joining us today, and Bob for joining us today. It really is an important show. It's about aphasia and brain injuries. And you know that the world of aphasia is really, really important to me because I suffered a stroke. But people can see the effects of strokes, but you can't see the effect of aphasia. You can hear it, you can see when people are talking to you, but you can't see what's going on in the brain. So it's really important to understand that if somebody is speaking to you and they're a little off, or they're not speaking correctly, or they're not drunk, they're not on drugs, they're not crazy, they're just a little have aphasia. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I really thank Courtney and Cyndy and Bob for being a part of this show. And the other thing is, thanks to Cyndy for joining us today last minute. We want to send our heartfelt hope and respect and to Damar, who had that tackle that really changed his life. And I think it changed the whole scope of the football feelings, and really brought a lot of light to the impact that tackles can have. That doesn't mean that, you know, we're saying you can't play, and that's everybody's personal opinion. This show is about bringing information to people, but I know Cyndy has a passion for it, and we really wanted to bring Cyndy on at this particular moment in time to talk about her book, After the Cheering Stops, and which is such a powerful book, and talk about her experience and talk about how she feels. And then we're going to bring Courtney, and we're going to talk to Courtney about what, you know, her work. And I was telling Courtney in the Zoom green room how I really, from the research that I did on her prior, I could really tell that she has a heartfelt passion for her work, and she really cares for each person individually. And of course, Bob is just a dear friend who is my singing partner, and he really does a lot of work with me on the entertainment end of bringing awareness to strokes and aphasia. So thank you so much. And of course, thank you to Judy. Judy, you can begin to read. You're on mute though. You're on mute, Judy. You have to take yourself on mute.
Good morning.
I can't hear you.
Good morning.
Okay, go ahead.
Sunday, January. Okay, I was starting in the wrong place. Sorry about that. Courtney Caruso has special training and skill in preventing.
Judy, hold on one second. Why do I hear? Judy, hold on one second. Why do I hear back echo? Does somebody have the show on? I hear back echo. Does somebody have the show on? I hear back echo. Does somebody? Jim, can you mute your? Can everybody mute theirs so that Judy could? Can you mute your? Can everybody mute theirs so that Judy could? Jim and Cyndy, can you mute yours?
Yes.
Jim, can you mute yours? Yes. Jim,
That's weird.
can you mute yours? Okay, go ahead, Judy.
Weird.
I'd like to welcome all our guests today. Courtney, Cyndy, and Bob. Courtney Caruso has special training and skill in preventing, assessing, diagnosing, and treating speech.
Hang on. Judy, is it you? Because everybody else is muted. Do you have the show on anywhere? Is it you? Because
No.
everybody else is muted. Do you have the show on anywhere?
No.
Do you have the show on anywhere? Did everyone hear that mute when I was talking? Did everyone hear that mute when I was talking?
No.
Did everyone hear that mute when I was talking?
Wow.
No.
Did everyone? That's so odd. Okay. Okay. Did everyone hear it when Judy was talking? Okay. Did everyone hear it when Judy was talking?
I have my phone totally off, no power. I have my phone totally off, no power. I have my phone totally off, no power.
Okay, go ahead, Judy.
Good morning, all. And we'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Cyndy, Courtney, and Bob. Courtney Caruso has special training and skill in preventing, assessing, diagnosing, and treating speech, language, and communication skills and swallowing disorders arising from illness, injury, deficiencies, or birth defects. She performs testing, evaluation, and treatment of disorders relating to how patients form words, communicate, and process the speech of others. Former NFL wife Cyndy Feasel continues to share the tragic story of her family's journey into chaos, and darkness resulting from the damage her husband Grant suffered due to football-related concussions and head trauma, and the faith that saved her. As we pray for the recovery of football star Damar Hamlin from the Buffalo Bills, who recently was critically injured during a routine football tackle and suffered cardiac arrest, the world has witnessed the effect of such a tackle and wonder if it was worth it. Cyndy Feasel was invited back to share awareness of football injuries and describe in painful and excruciating detail what can happen to an NFL player and his family when the stadium empties and the lights go down. A powerful tale of warning for all football moms and NFL wives everywhere. Together with Cyndy, Courtney's medical specialty and education that deals with brain injury survivors, stroke and aphasia patients, and helps them to regain ability to form words, speak, and understand what others are saying to them, and motivate them to continue onward to better health and communication skills. Now we welcome ReneMarie and all our guests to the ReneMarie Stroke of Luck show.
Woo! Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Jim in Long Island, to dealing with the technical things we got going on. But we don't stop, right? We just keep forging ahead. No matter what happens, we're gonna make it work. So that's how our motto is, and you got to be that way in life, right? You just have to trudge through things and just keep going and not let anything stop you. I believe in going around it, not going through it. So it's like, this is here, let me go around it, right, Jim? Cyndy, you can come back on. Everybody can unmute their speakers. And I really want to thank everybody once again. And Courtney, I really want to start with you, because you're the experienced doctor, you know, that deals with this. Are you I don't know if you're specifically a doctor, but you're in the medical field and you're a professional. And talk to us a little bit about what you do, and share with our audience, you know, where you are, and you know, and give us a little bit of feedback on you.
So I am a speech language pathologist, and my background primarily is with adults who have aphasia, typically secondary to a stroke. So I spent a number of years working at an aphasia center, where all I did every day was work with individuals who have aphasia.
Which was the aphasia center that I started with, I connected with, the Mayward Adler's Aphasia Center, which is a great area. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. They're wonderful. And then I expanded and created my own private practice, where I work individually and in group with different clients who have communication disorders from a number of different impairments, such as stroke or brain injury. But aphasia is definitely my biggest passion, and it's something I like to educate anyone that will listen about, because there is a lot of misinformation or lack of knowledge about stroke and aphasia. So I also have the opportunity to teach for an online master's program, and I teach an aphasia course for that as well.
Hmm. While I'm thinking about it, because Marlon and myself really want to get educated more on aphasia. So we'd love to talk to you about your class, your online class. That would be very, very interesting for us to take that. We really want to learn more about it. Although I experienced it and how I try to explain to people is I'm talking from the back end, like, how it feels. That's my biggest thing. I don't know the medical terms. I don't know anything, but I actually know how it feels because even I was 20, I don't know if you know, but I was 26 when I had my stroke. And we were talking about young people having strokes, and it's a misconception. That's one of our captions is together we are lifting the voices and changing the face. The face is the misconception that young people can't have strokes, because young people do suffer from strokes, and it impacts your world and everybody's world around you. So it's really important. So we're very passionate about aphasia.
And even an unborn baby could have a stroke.
Yeah, and we that's something we say as well. So it's very interesting. We were talking before that you've worked with specifically someone from the sports area who suffers from aphasia. Talk to us a little bit about specifically how you work with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's people don't understand the technology behind it. And I know in my world, it took me to trust that person again, because I had a brain trauma, and it just, kind of like got rid of all the guidance and the boundaries and all the walls in my brain. So I had to begin to trust that person, and they had to peel back the layers. And so tell us how you handle all that.
I think one of the biggest factors in any person's recovery that has a communication disorder like aphasia is their internal motivation to want to improve their communication. Unfortunately, aphasia can lead individuals to become depressed because it can feel very isolating. Many people have never heard the word aphasia. So if they're given that diagnosis, it comes as a very large surprise. And you might think, I'm the only one who has this condition, right? Because you've never heard that word before.
Right.
So it can then lead people to become sad or isolated or depressed. And there can be disconnect even with the person who has the aphasia and their family, because as the loved one, you've kind of lost the person who was there before. They're not exactly the same after they had that stroke or brain.
Right.
So that internal motivation really makes a huge difference. So getting them to want to improve, I think, is one of the biggest steps in the recovery. And of course, any family involvement or friend involvement also plays a huge part in the recovery.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say, but I think that it's important to trust that person. And with me peeling back the onion layers and forming an ongoing rapport with that person really helped me to plug in and trust them and break down those walls, which was why I love the Adler's Aphasia Center, because when you walk through those doors, it's welcoming to them. It's a safe haven for everybody. You can make mistakes. That's why when Judy and I are talking to people who have experienced strokes on this show and they kind of get frazzled by not being able, we just say, it's okay. It really is okay. Just
take your time.
Take a deep breath. Right. Take your time.
Talk
take a deep breath.
slowly.
Yeah.
And
so
and I think that's another important piece because there's such limited information in general about aphasia that so many people don't know what it is. When you come across someone who has aphasia, you don't, as someone maybe who doesn't have awareness about aphasia, they don't know how to interact with the person. So a big component of aphasia is this tip of the tongue feeling, right? So you know what you want to say, but it's just your brain is not giving you that word in that very instance.
Right.
So others might just fill it in for you or interrupt you, right? And then that can obviously be hurtful or discouraging to the person with aphasia. So really
Yeah.
getting
It would
to
be helpful to, before starting a conversation with anyone that doesn't know you have it, is to mention, I have aphasia and I have to talk slowly to communicate with you. And also, when they're driving and they are stopped by a police officer, they should have something that says, I've got aphasia and what it is, so that they don't think there's something like they've been drinking or something like that.
Right. And the National Aphasia Association actually has printed tags that someone with aphasia can have that says kind of the same idea that you were saying, Judy. You know, I have aphasia, with some little facts about it. So they could turn it over to a police officer or turn it over to someone at the coffee shop if they're having some communication.
They should actually wear it on a chain.
Recording in progress.
Let me mute. So what I think is that we really need to respect everybody. And we used to have, we had a guest on the show. Excuse me, I forgot her names because we've had so
From
many guests.
California,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
she would talk
Yeah,
and her
that's
husband
exactly-
would
yes.
listen, and he would wait, and if she needed help, she would look at him.
He
And
would ask
then,
her,
and
he would
only
ask
then.
her permission. No, he would
Right.
ask her permission.
Right,
Do you want help? Do you need help?
right.
Because then exactly what you're saying, Courtney, it was really, really a good
They were
unified
from California.
teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's a big component of the therapy as well, is providing that coaching for any of the caregivers, whether it's a spouse, a parent, a child, whoever is the loved one kind of taking care of the person with aphasia, giving them that training to have patience or asking permission before they jump in, right? Do you want help? Do you need help? Rather than just assuming the person wants or needs the help, because
And
sometimes-
how they did it was, she would try to talk, and then if she looked at him, he would say, and there would be a pause, he would say, do you need help?
yeah.
Do you want assistance? And then he would do it briefly and let her continue.
So Cyndy, did you reconnect? I saw you got somewhere else on your phone. Are you available to talk? So we'll continue to talk until she helps. Bob, did you ever come across anybody that you didn't know them, but they suffered from some sort of speaking disorder? And I'm asking because, you know, since you not in that world so much, I wanted to see your first impression, although I know you deal with the loving hands and kindness to everybody, but I just wanted to know your first impression and how you dealt with it.
Well, it was somebody that I knew, my son-in-law, who was a few years older than me, and he suffered a stroke while undergoing hip replacement surgery.
Oh, wow.
And he had the same thing, like Courtney said. You could tell that the word he wanted to use was on the tip of his tongue, but he couldn't manage to produce it. And he would come out with the wrong word or something. But, you know, he was family and we all saw each other a lot and we got used to it. And we learned how to communicate with him. That's my only experience. And now looking back on it, we didn't know that it was aphasia or anything, which is like raising consciousness about this is so important. Like you said, to give a card if somebody gets pulled over by a cop or something, you know, and he's slurring his words or acting weird, it's good to have that information for the officer. But my wife had not aphasia, but towards the end of her life, I think she did, because she had gotten what's called aspiration pneumonia because due to radiation therapy she had about 20 years ago for head and neck, it obliterated her uvula. So when she would eat, if she ate too fast, if she spoke while she was eating, it would go down into her, it wouldn't go down into her a digestive system. Food particles would go like right into her lungs. And about a couple of years ago, when she had to go undergo cancer treatment, it got a lot worse, and she beat the cancer, but because she was aspirating the food product, and because of the chemo reduced her immune system to nothing, she fell victim to some bacteria that got in there and caused what they called aspiration pneumonia. And by that point, because she hadn't been getting oxygen, I guess, then she wasn't thinking right. It was like the first day she went in the hospital, she was still kind of, could still like hold a conversation. In fact, when she went into the hospital the first day, I was talking to her on the phone, and she's telling me, don't forget to take the stuff we cooked last night and put it in Tupperware and then put it in the freezer and then eat it or throw it out if I'm not back home in a couple of days. And after that, that was the last kind of lucid exchange that I had with her. So it's not aphasia per se, but
Is it aphasia, Courtney? Is that considered aphasia?
I mean, obviously I would need to know more about
well, they
her.
called her condition dysphagia.
Yeah, so
which
the
is-
swallowing part that you were describing, that is called dysphagia or
And
dysphagia.
that's what grabbed my attention when I read Renee's blurb about this meeting, where there was something in the subject line about swallowing issues and speech therapy and stuff. And she was having a speech therapist come over, and the speech therapist, and she had swallow studies done, and she was instructed to hold her head a certain way when she tried to swallow. And the speech therapist stressed that she's afraid she might aspirate. I wasn't sure what all of the connotations were to aspirating. I didn't know. Now I know the hard way. But that's what attracted me to this session, was with the swallowing problems, which eventually, the second day she was in the hospital, they took her down for a swallow study in the hospital, but she wasn't able to cooperate because she couldn't communicate. And it was at that point that she started having issues with her cognitive issues.
Wow.
Like you said, if oxygen is not getting to the brain for whatever reason, and there are a number of
Ye-
reasons that happen,
Yeah.
can lead to all sorts of different issues depending on where exactly in the brain it's is being impacted, right? So it can lead to maybe some cognitive difficulties, difficulty kind of understanding your surroundings. It can lead to communication challenges. But dysphagia or dysphagia, the swallowing issue, doesn't automatically lead to aphasia. But many people who have aphasia, especially as a result of a stroke, in the more acute stages, in the very beginning, can often also have dysphagia or the swallowing problem.
Yes, I've read about that. And it got worse, as time progressed in the hospital. They put the CPAP machine on her to force oxygen into her lungs. However, she wasn't able to get rid of the carbon dioxide that was being created. She was getting the oxygen in, but she wasn't able to get the carbon dioxide, or what they call it, the O2, CO2 or something, out. And that affected her cognitive abilities to a great extent. And we were staying by her side, and some things, at one point she came through and she wanted to know if she had COVID. She knew she had something, and she knew she had something going on with her lungs and her breathing. she couldn't really talk well, but she kind of asked if she had COVID. And we thought that that was a positive sign because it showed some sense of consciousness. And another time we got a rise out of her when we told her that our granddaughter was going to be a mother in a few months. And she had the CPAP thing on, and you could see her smile a little bit.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing all that, Bob. We're going to come back to you, Courtney. We're going to have Cyndy say a few words. Cyndy, can you show your beautiful face, or?
Well, I can't figure out why my face isn't showing, because I finally got onto my
Phone.
off my phone and onto my laptop, but my face isn't showing on here. But at least I have sound at this point.
Yes, you
and
sound
glad about
wonderful.
that.
So good.
Yes.
Hang on one second. So Courtney, we're going to come back to, and we're going to talk to Bob and Courtney and Judy about,
How's
oh, there you are, about recovery, because I don't want this to be a very down, we want to bring people hope in 2023. That's, it is important. Aphasia, I suffered a stroke, I suffered from aphasia. It's been a long road, hard road. Life has not been easy, it's been blessing and stuff like that, but it only because I think it was you, Courtney, that said you have to fight. You have to have a fight in you. And that's one thing that God knew about me, is I don't give up. Like throw it at me. I'm coming at you. I'm coming for it. So it's important to have that fight. But Cyndy, so we want to talk about recovery in a little bit, and how you deal with people, and how Bob, even though your wife is not here anymore, you could talk to us about, your hope and your work, and the work that you've learned from having the love in your life, because you loved your wife and she loved you and you had a great relationship. But Cyndy has another passion. And we were talking about DeMar before, his impact, his tackle. I'm one to listen to everybody, but really to ask questions that I want to hear. And one of the things the things that came to me, I was watching, it was an average tackle. It wasn't an average tackle in the way it was hit, but those tackles happen every single play in football. So I thought, we have to get Cyndy back to hear her intuition into her feeling about the tackle that happened. And I will tell you that something that captured my thought patterns on inviting Cyndy back was Michael Strahan, who I watch a Good Morning America and love. He's such a upbeat, great guy. He said on the air, he said, if that would have happened when he was playing, he would have thought about it. He would have thought about it. And it was that was a moment in time for me, because that shared, how maybe their minds are changing. And it doesn't mean that, like I said, that we don't want people to play football. We just, our life lesson is to educate parents for their children. When you become an adult, you have every right to make any decision you want. You can make any decision you want, but to scramble a child's brain is very, it's I don't know, it just bothers me.
They have to make changes to the game so that there's not a real tackle involved.
You know what, Judy? They
Right.
make changes. I think and like I said, I have no idea, but they changed the helmets for the NFL, but that they changed the helmets for the children.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know that.
But the
Better
helmets are not enough.
Yeah,
That's
Not
right.
enough.
Judy.
yeah.
That's right, Judy.
So Cyndy, I'm gonna let you talk because you're the one with the experience.
Oh, well, my expertise, unfortunately, is a dead loved one. So that's made me investigate. I had no idea prior to Grant's death anything really about this subject, because you have to remember, 15 years ago, we weren't looking everything up on Google, right? It was just go to the library maybe and get some information. That was about it. So if I'd had my laptop and was able to do a lot of investigating 15, 20 years ago, more of it would have made sense. Because as I've listened to all of you tell your story, I realize now, after doing a lot of research, that along with CTE comes speaking difficulties. I had no idea that that was even part of the process. Grant was an alcoholic drug addict. So when you're an alcoholic drug addict, speech difficulties come along with that because you're drunk most of the time.
Oh.
So see, I didn't have anything to go on. I just assumed he was quote unquote an addict. So my behavior was responding to someone that was an addict, which still was not an educated way, because I probably, not even probably, I know I should have had more patience with him, but I was married to him for 29 years. So all of those 29 years, he continued to drift away from me. That's an addict's personality, to drift away from their loved one. So all of it just kind of lined up for me being an addict. It never even occurred to me that it was a brain trauma that he had suffered through playing sports. He played football from age 8 to 32.
Wow.
So he had a lot of brain damage.
Yeah.
And by the time his brain went to the Boston University and had pathology report from Dr. Ann McKee, who is, by the way, the most upstanding pathologist in the United States, pretty much, she said she didn't know how he'd even functioned as many years as he had. His entire frontal lobe was destroyed. So needless to say, we got a divorce and it split our family up. His brain trauma, by us not being educated and knowing anything about it, it totally destroyed our family of 5.
Yeah. You know what's funny, when I was watching Concussion last night, and there was one family in that movie,
Yes,
the mother with the 2 children,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
scared me because I can understand that craziness of not knowing what you're gonna do. But yet the mother's got to protect the children,
Of course.
and she had to throw him out. And I remember her running after him as he was driving. Like, it's just so vivid in my mind.
Terrifying.
It's just
terrifying.
it's terrifying. It's
Yes.
terrifying.
Yes. And again, we didn't have any kind of educated medical diagnosis ever his entire living life. So we had nothing to go on. We put him in rehab, many times, but it was a epic fail because he had no way of recovering. He was brain damaged, severely brain damaged.
And you can't, Courtney, can you come back from that? I'm just curious. Can you come back from that brain damage that's caused?
You can certainly have aspects that you recover from or improve from different types of brain damage, but it would definitely depend on the severity of the brain damage, location of the brain damage, and that.
And being an addict did not help.
Well, they were giving him pain medications, drugs, which got him addicted.
Yes.
And then when he couldn't get that anymore, when he was not with the NFL and he wasn't playing anymore, then he went to drinking.
Yes. And this brings up a good point, Judy, that people don't understand. I mean, the NFL, yes, it's a wonderful sport for everybody to watch on Sunday afternoon and Monday nights and Thursday nights. But the amount of people that end up having lifelong problems after this is over. Remember, this is an elite men's club. Okay, there's no women involved. It's an elite men's club, and they have a lot of pride. So everybody doesn't want to talk about all their symptoms. Like it's a long list of symptoms that they all have when it's over, and most of them have all sorts of joints and replacements, and it's a lifetime of hell with their pain. So nobody really talks about that because it's hard to fight money and power. And you have to remember that the person in charge of the NFL is making $20 million a year. So it's not going to go away. It drives cities. Stadiums are built in cities that benefit from it. I mean, it's not going away, but it will slowly but surely become a gladiator sport, and it is already. But it's going to just be
What's a gladiator sport?
A gladiator is like back when the Christians used to sit and be fed to the lions. I mean, when you used to watch, people killed. So eventually that's what this will go to, as far as it will just be the poor people who can't get out of poverty, and there's no other way that they can ever exist, or they think, in making a living, and it's a surefire way to make a ton of money. And some of them will think that it's worth the gambling to do it.
You know
And
what though? I mean, and I said this in the beginning, the NFL is played by adults.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so the football players are adults, and I think that
Absolutely.
with the work you're doing and the movie Concussion and all that information is out there, and they could just make a decision
Absolutely.
if they want to. No,
Yep.
but my heartfelt, you know, we have when I become aware of something, I have to
Mhm.
do something about it, you know. And I think it's important for us to educate parents.
Absolutely.
Parents are the ones that need to be educated, because
Yes.
do you really want your child to
No.
get to not to be the best they could be? We want our children to do the best they could be for them in their lives, and playing football is not helping that.
No.
Or
And
any contact sport.
Yes, a contact sport. It could be soccer. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
kids that still head in soccer. It's very dangerous for people that do. Ice hockey. I mean, there's a lot of head banging sports. So I'm not picking on football. That killed my husband. But I'm just saying that it could be, any head banging sport. Or you could be in an accident. I mean, you could be in a car accident. I mean, there's all sorts of things, skateboarding with no helmet.
What about
biking.
ice skating? When they're doing all
Yeah.
those flips.
You know what
and,
though? But my thought patterns, and they're just personal. They're not anything. My thought patterns are that, yeah, in soccer, there could be one or two or three or four head bangings. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Or so. But football is every
Yes.
single play.
Yes, and your brain is soft.
Every single play. And
Yes.
they even said in the movie Concussion that the center, who that guy was, the lead guy of
Mike Webster.
right,
Mike,
right,
that's
right.
what my husband was, by the way.
Yeah.
And Mike was his idol, and I'm friends with all of their family, and
Yeah.
all of our families were
Yeah.
destroyed.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So
and all of these things, people don't understand that CTE has symptoms that are just like ALS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. I mean, if you could line up all of the NFL players, college players, anybody that played football for longer than maybe high school, if you could line up all of them and put beside each one any of these brain diseases, you would be shocked at how many have it.
yeah.
I mean, they probably all have CTE, but it's manifested in a way of ALS or Parkinson's
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
but 99% of them have a brain disease.
Wow. Wow.
Terrible.
And Courtney, from what I understood in the movie Concussion, that this type of brain diagnosis can't be done till they're passed. And how do they help them if they don't know that's what they have? They're assuming they have that.
I think a lot of it depends on the symptoms. So kind of what Cyndy, sometimes they might appear as though they have dementia or Parkinson's.
Mhm.
Individuals who even have those diagnoses can receive speech therapy, for
Of
example,
course.
some of those difficulties. So
Yes.
even the specific diagnosis may be a little unclear,
Mhm.
based on anytime we see a client or a patient, we should be taking a thorough case history. So finding out,
Yes.
were they playing sports? Did they ever have a head trauma?
Yes.
Can give us a clearer picture if these symptoms are more in line with something like Parkinson's, or is it likely due to whatever impact they sustained in their brain?
I just want to add something. At the American Heart Association luncheon a few years ago, a woman came to talk about her brain injury from dancing, from shaking her head violently while she was dancing. And so many young people dance that way, and they're shaking their heads, and they don't realize they're shaking their brains as well.
Hmm. So what that's very, I was there with you, Judy, I think. I was there with you. But my question to everyone is now, I guess Courtney knew this, but we brought some light to Cyndy about someone in the football field, football career could suffer from aphasia. So they because of this, that probably went alongside of it, but you didn't even tap into that because he was a drug addict and an alcoholic. So it's very interesting that we're bringing light, or maybe light was brought to it already. I have no idea. Because Courtney, you had said that you had a patient that was a sports, that fell off a bike, I believe you said. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And what severity did they have?
So he was a cyclist. He actually was in a lot of races and always wore his helmet. But one day he went out just for like a leisurely bike ride and did not put his helmet on, and fell off the bike and obviously sustained a head injury as a result of that. And due to the location of where the brain injury was, typically aphasia is a problem on the left side of the brain. So if you have that side of the brain, it's more likely to lead to aphasia.
What's the left side of the brain, Courtney? Tell me what's on the left side, because I know that music is on the right. It's on the left.
The left is considered like our language center. So our ability to speak and understand language is on that left side. So anytime you have damage to that side or have a stroke on that side, it's more than likely that you will end up with an aphasia. So
you're talking about a stroke because isn't it the opposite side that I have in my world, I had my right side is affected, but it was my left side of my brain.
Correct.
Right,
Yep.
okay.
So where the injury is on your brain is what we're talking about. So if the left side of your head is injured in some way from a stroke or a head injury, that's more than likely going to lead to aphasia, because that's where our talking and overall language ability comes in. But like you said, our brain is an interesting thing. So the left side of our brain controls the right side of our body. So many people who have had a stroke or brain injury on the left side could then have weakness or difficulty moving on the right side.
I have a question. I have a question for Cyndy now. Cyndy, what side was Grant's weakness?
Well, I never really noticed that he had weakness on either side. But again, the pathology report said that the frontal lobe was destroyed. So, this is all interesting to me because it brings me just 1,001 questions. And of course, there's nobody to ask because he's no longer alive. But it would have been so interesting to know if he'd ever had a stroke. I mean, I wonder, because he had difficulty thinking. He did a lot of, at the end of his life, maybe a year before he died, he had a lot of stuttering. He couldn't get anything out without it just being like you wanted to go, say it already. I mean, he was just, and again, I thought that was associated to the drinking, being drunk. So I think that it was a mixture of both, but I do think now that just the frontal lobe problem caused him to have these difficulties speaking. But all of the things that y'all have all said has just made me think that I wonder if it was even deeper. There would be no way, of course, at this point of ever knowing, and there was no way in pathology. It wasn't listed that he'd had a stroke, but it's almost like that's what happened because he had so much trouble communicating.
But even just all the head injuries that he sustained led to the same types of symptoms potentially.
Right. And he did a lot of riding of motorcycles, like you were talking about. He did growing up. He grew up in Southern California, out in the desert. They rode dirt bikes. They rode bicycles. They never wore helmets. He said to me at the end of his life he said, I think maybe I have what Mike has, who was in the concussion movie, Mike Webster. And I said, what was that? What is that? Because I didn't even know anything about CTE. And he started trying to explain it to me. And he said, it's from all the concussions that I've had. And I said, well, how many concussions do you think you had? And I'll never forget him saying hundreds.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible. That's terrible. That's terrible. We only have a few more minutes and I really want to get into the flip side, the recovery. Like Courtney, the recovery, the hope that you could bring to everybody. Cyndy, the hope that the work you're doing, Bob, the hope that you could bring, Judy, the hope that you could bring with everybody. Judy, let's start with you. What kind of hope for 2003 do you want to bring to everybody, especially knowing what we've learned about aphasia and strokes? What's your hope for everybody?
Well, I talk about Cyndy's book a lot.
Yes.
Thank
After
you.
the cheering stops, I talk to parents who have small children that are involved in any active sports, dancing, football, soccer, any of it. And I say, are you aware of this? And I'm telling them ahead of time to be cautious and to educate their children. And I try to educate other people as well to what could happen so it doesn't happen to them.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Judy.
Yeah. Judy, you do an incredible job. And when Judy's passionate about something like this foundation, she just runs with it. Like there's like I go around and she goes through them, pushes them to the side. Like she's like,
I don't take no for an answer.
that's no's
She's
not in our vocabulary word, right?
If
So,
anyone says it cannot be done, stand aside.
yeah.
I'll show you.
Challenge, yeah.
So Bob, tell us a little bit about the hope that you think. Thank you for working with me. You are an angel on earth, you know. And I love Bob because Bob and I have the same philosophy. It's not about us. It's about the work we're doing. It's about showcasing everybody else. It's about bringing light to everybody else. I'll never forget Al Russo when we performed in Elmwood Park senior celebration. And Al, a dear friend of his, came to visit, and Bob wanted to stop the show. Bob wanted Al to be the center of attention. And I love that. It's about, oh, we're doing this. Oh, but Al's here. Let's let him take the light. And that's the gift. That's the gift. That's what makes you who you are, to bring light to other people. So what hope do you want to work with us to bring to people 2023?
I just hope that through what we do, we can keep on raising consciousness about these issues, and hopefully it will lead to some positive change. And like Judy said, you know, be aware. Parents need to be educated and aware of the hazards that can occur. Not to make everybody all paranoid and afraid to, like, you know, to want to keep their kids in a bubble or anything like that, but just to maybe know the signs that something might be wrong, and not just blatant signs like problems speaking, problems swallowing, but some of the more subtle things like emotional and psychological changes and stuff like that. I think what I'm doing with you, Renee, goes a little ways towards doing that. And of course, the clinical research that people like Courtney, you know, and Cyndy with her book, and Judy with her activism are bringing about. The change will come. And with the internet and people's ability to go out and research things, I'm optimistic that we're going to be making a positive impact.
It's one step at a time, right, everyone? It's one
Absolutely,
these
yeah.
conversations that we have, you know, and the next one. And I mean, now you're a part of our family, Courtney. I hope you'll come back many times, because that's what we do. We invited Cyndy back. Cindy's been on the show a number of times, Bob. And it's just about conversations and how we feel, and, you know, and maybe it'll trigger something in somebody to call us and to reach out to us to you know, just see how we can impact their lives in a positive manner, you know. So thank you, Bob. I'm going to let Courtney go next, and Cyndy, we're going to let you, you know, give your last verb. Courtney, could you please let people know where they can reach you? Also, and like I said, you know, you're part of our family. You'll be on the internet and stuff like that. And actually, we may be starting support group and education in the Hawthorne Library. I reached out to them and asked them if we could use their room once a month. Just nothing big, just, you know, get together with, so we'd love to have you as a guest there as well, because that's a thing, but that's a project that we started. So yeah, so share us the hope that you want to bring in 2023. And thank you so much for connecting with us. I know Diane Bromberg, of course, is the New Jersey board member that connected us. And she always has a passion for everything as well. But Courtney really is one of us. She really does things from the heart. And she just loves to help people. So tell us a little bit about your hope for 2023.
Well, thank you so much, first and foremost, for having me on the show. It's been such a pleasure. I would like to just kind of reiterate what's already been said by Bob and Judy, that awareness and education piece is so important. There's so much misinformation or lack of information, but really there is a lot of hope for people with aphasia or who have any kind of communication impairment. It doesn't just have to be aphasia. There are a number of speech pathologists across the country, and now especially ever since COVID, telemedicine has become much more readily available. So even if someone doesn't have a clinic or someone in their town or nearby, they could even access services via something like Zoom, for example, as a way to get the services that they need. So they don't necessarily have to be limited by where they're located.
Which is one of the blessings that came out of the COVID, even though it was a horrific, it really did shake up the world and just get us in a new path, you know?
Absolutely. And there are lots of different apps and programs that even people can be doing at home to practice their communication. I mentioned the National Aphasia Association earlier. They have a lot of wonderful resources on their website, and they do a lot of free Zoom meetings for people with aphasia, where they can just get together and chat to practice their communication skills. And I think it's always helpful for someone with aphasia, as I mentioned earlier in the show. It can be very isolating, especially if you've never heard that word. But then to be in a Zoom room with 5-10 other people who have aphasia and kind of talk about what's going on in your life, and you're in a safe space to be able to communicate with each other, can be very helpful. But the biggest thing is that if you have aphasia, you can recover or continue to make progress years and years later. But as we talked, ReneMarie, you have to have that fight, and you have to want to make those improvements for really to see anything.
And I will add something, because if I don't add it now, I'll forget. That's one of the aphasia things that I've learned. You gotta put things in your tool belt, right? And even my stroke happened over 30 years ago with aphasia, and I am still to this day improving and using my brain in different ways, and able to learn the tools. Like, you know, sleep is really one of the biggest things that helps me. Is I need my rest, I need to sleep, I need to calm my brain. You know, there are different tools that people need to learn, to use. I would love to have you back, now that I'm thinking about it, with Judy. Judy, if Courtney's willing, to what tools can we put in our belt? What tools can we put in our belt to be able to move forward with hope? I think that'd be a very interesting program, because I've learned a lot of tools, like going into the silence, and you know, and just let your brain rest a little bit. You know, because I've learned that when I suffered my stroke and I suffered from aphasia, I was always running, because I was afraid of what was going to happen the next second, because my life could end. Like, and it took a long time to trust in that process, trust that I was here, like flip it. So I'd love to have that conversation with you.
Absolutely. That sounds like a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
And the last thing, I know, so Cyndy can speak. You had asked me to share where everyone could find me if they. So my company is Liberty Speech Associates. So anyone can reach out to me via that if they have any questions about aphasia or any sort of communication disorders.
And they can reach you via Zoom, right? I mean, you could set some, so they don't need to be in the New Jersey area.
Correct. I could potentially meet people via Zoom.
We're good, because
And your phone number.
The world.
Oh, yes.
And your phone number is 201-658-4400. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So Cyndy, thank you, Courtney. So Cyndy, I really think it was prominent for you to end this show with some hope for everybody. Damar is doing much better. He's at least able to, to come back,
Yeah.
which is a blessing, which is a blessing. I have you reached out to the family at all?
No, I haven't. I don't really even know how to. I mean, I don't know any more than you do about reaching out to him. I just have been praying for him. And again, my little group of people that all played in the NFL together over the years, we've all connected and talked about it. And so it is an ongoing conversation piece, and, people don't understand, but there's really been things like this happen all along. This is not new. One of my friends who played for the Jets years ago was paralyzed on the field. And so, there are people that have all sorts of lifelong injuries. This is one that has turned out well right now. We don't know what his long-term will be, but this got national attention, but this is just one that did. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
yeah. So I have a hard time with just thinking this is an exclusive thing, because I know that it's happened many more times.
Yeah,
And so,
but I will share with you just my because I know you're in the center of it and you're like, but my interpretation of that is he brought light to it.
Absolutely.
That's the positive thing. It's like
Yes.
Luke Bryan, who died from a stroke at 50
Yes.
years old. It happens every single day. People die
Yes.
from a stroke every
Yes.
single day.
Yes.
But I look at it like he brought light to this.
Yes.
He brought light
Yes.
to the situation. So
Oh, definitely. And I think that the conversation is getting more and more, that people are looking at headbanging sports more and more and going, yikes, is this really something that I want my children to participate in? And I'm with you, even though my area, I guess, of expertise is being an adult and playing after the age of 18.
right.
I had two sons that played when they were very young, and they all had serious concussions, multiple. So I now worry about these two young men that I know that their dad had this disease and it ended up killing him. I completely worry about all of the symptoms that they could start having. So I always say, as a parent, just do your research, look, find out, because we do it. Like Bob said, we are lucky enough to have the internet now where we can look up things and symptoms, and it will give us something. I have a lot of reviews on my book on Amazon, and I'm thankful for that. A lot of moms who were looking for answers and trying to decide what to do with their children. It's kind of like tennis shoes, ReneMarie. If you're going to, if you want the best tennis shoes to work out for, you're going to look at the reviews, right?
Yep.
So I just say, let's look at the reviews. Just look at the evidence, and then make up your mind from there, what you think would be best for your children.
And that's the hope that we bring to everybody.
Yes.
Like we said, it's not us telling anybody what to do.
No.
Because I've learned that you
Yeah.
can tell people what to do. You don't want to tell people what to do. You just want to speak your experience and let people, and keep that door open. Because I think if you tell people what to do, they're going to shut the door on you. They're not going to listen to you anymore. So you have to keep it open, just share it with them, just be there for them any specific time, and just keep it going. So thank you so much, Cyndy, for last minute hopping on.
Hey, I just appreciate all of you and our relationship and Judy's relationship. Thank you so much. You guys mean so much to me. And thank you for all of you for the awareness and the help that you're giving people, and hope.
Oh, thank you, Cyndy.
You mean a lot to us too.
Yes, you're a part of the family. Courtney's a part of the family. Bob's a part of the family. Judy, go ahead, tell them. I am one day going to do a concert at
Yes,
Yankee Stadium.
in one of the baseball stadiums, maybe Yankee Stadium, and she's going to fill it with standing room
With all
only.
our friends. We're going to fill it with all the important people that we that's my
And there's
vision.
so many.
So we're going to hop off because we're 10 minutes after, but we were a little bit slow getting started. But I just really want to thank everybody, especially Judy, for all the work she does, Courtney for joining us today, Cyndy for hopping on last minute, Bob for all you do with me. You're incredible. Everybody's incredible. We always blow kisses at the end if you feel comfortable on 3, but I really want to thank everybody, specifically, 2023 is a year of hope. And we have wonderful, wonderful things going on in our organization, and tune in as we continue to grow and continue to uplift. This year is about uplifting our organization and really bringing more awareness. And we're going to come up with a PowerPoint presentation to share what our goals and visions are for the next 5 to 10 years. So we're really excited. And Judy, we got like 10,000 views on the last one we did. Like over 10,000 views on the last, goals and objectives that we have. So we did well that one. That was
It's
exciting.
probably over that by now.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a blessed Sunday. And we're not going to have music to stream out with. We're going to just all hop off. And then once again, when we restream it, we'll add everything to it. But we want to thank everybody for joining us today. And just, we hope you have a stroke of luck in your life today and every day. So
Thank
here we
you.
go. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Mwah!
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
See
too,
later.
Jim.
Thank you.
Bye.
Porque tú más que nadie sabes qué pasó en toda mi vida. Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que hay.